Welcome back to Amazing Mind. If you've just joined us, we have as our second guest, Dr. Ellen Glaser. Now, Dr. Glaser is on the faculty at UCLA School of Medicine. She also has a private practice right here in Los Angeles, California. Today, Dr. Glaser is going to be talking to us about how we can help our clients to cope with the loss of an animal companion. Please help me welcome my guest.
Thank you, Lisa.
Dr. Glaser, why do we need to know how to help our clients recover from the loss of a pet?
Good question, and an important question. The reason that we need to help helpers be more sensitive and more available to help pet owners has a lot to do with the fact that pets have taken a much larger role in our society today.
What do you mean?
There are many divorced people, many more single people, older people that are alone except for their beloved pet.
You know, can you talk to us more about the human-animal bond?
Mm-hmm. Part of the reason that pets are so important has to do with the fact that the pet-human relationship is particularly important, and it's a reminder of the early relationship that infants have with their mother. It's considered unconditional love. Okay? When you come home from work, if your hair is messy, if you did a dumb thing, if you don't look as good, your dog or cat doesn't care. They're there to love you.
That's true, the same way that a mother loves an infant even when it's cranky and even when it's smelly. And dogs love us when we're smelly, is that true?
In fact, they probably love us better when we're smelly. But that unconditional love is something hopefully we have very early, but we continue to have a yearning for it, even though after that very early mother-child relationship, we're not going to get it perfectly.
Why do people minimize the loss of a pet?
I think for a number of reasons. First of all, many people don't value pets the way many of us do. In different cultures, they eat dogs. They don't have them as pets.
So is this an American phenomenon?
I think it's very prevalent in America, but I've heard it's also very prevalent in France. So
Yes.
I'm not really sure if it's particularly American, but I think it also speaks to the fact that people hunger for connection and for acceptance, and that gets harder and harder to get in your life relating to other human beings.
What should we do when someone comes to us and has an animal companion that's very sick?
I think the most important thing to do is to think about it the same way as if the person came to you with a very sick husband or a child, because it's very much the same. It's critical to acknowledge the importance of the pet and even to try to understand the significance of this particular animal to this person.
What do you mean by that as a symbolism or the significance of this pet?
Well, let me give you an example. When I moved here many years ago with my dog, who I bought for $10 when I saw a sign, puppies for sale, and brought the dog out from New York and had the dog for, I think, about 12 years here, and then she passed away. Well, she was particularly important. Besides that, I loved her, and she was a great dog. She was also the only living being that knew my father, who had passed away many years before. So there was a connection that nobody else in my environment had ever met my father, except this little dog.
So it had that significance of a shared history. And in LA, being a stranger in a strange land, didn't have anybody else that shared that.
Right.
Can we make assumptions when someone comes into our office?
We can't, and that's very important. We can't overblow it or minimize it. And a perfect example from my life is I have two sons. They're older now, but when they were little, we had a rabbit. The rabbit's name was Magellan, and we all really liked Magellan. One day I was driving with my son. I think I had just picked him up at school, and I get a call from the nanny, and she said Magellan died. So, of course, I started crying, and then I started trying to talk to my son about the good life that Magellan had and how it's okay. And my son looked at me, I think he was 8 years old, and he goes, "You know, Mom, I think Magellan meant more to you than he did to me. And he did. You know, I was making this assumption that he was feeling the same thing I wasn't. He wasn't feeling it at all.
So we got to listen and not make any suggestions.
Yes. And you don't want to say to somebody, oh, I know just how important Fido was. Mm-hmm. Maybe he wasn't that important. Yes. Maybe she's just worried about how her kids are going to react. Exactly. So it's very important to clarify and to find out each situation is different.
So let's step it up a little bit. Now someone comes to you and the pet is critical and has X amount of days or weeks. What do we do now?
The most important thing to do in that situation is to acknowledge the impending loss and to help the person figure out how they would like to spend time with their animal, given that there's going to be an upcoming loss. I had an American Eskimo several years ago that was part of our family and at one point was diagnosed with stomach cancer, and we were told that she was suffering, she wasn't going to live that much longer, and that really the kindest thing to do would be to put her to sleep. So I made that decision, but before we were going to do that, I asked my son, what would you like to do? What can we do special with Sashi? And he decided that we'll take her to a park, we'll walk her around a little, pet her, sit with her, take pictures. And that's what we did. And then after that, it was time for me to take her to the vet. And, excuse me, and my son really appreciated that. It gave a certain closure to him that was very important and made it easier than when we had to say our final goodbye.
I'm feeling that intense emotion, and I'm feeling it too. I guess it's okay to get a little verklempt on HMI Web TV, right?
I hope so. Otherwise, you can cut this segment.
There you go. You wrote the most fascinating article called The Role of the Therapist in the Veterinary Office. Tell us about that.
Well, I was very aware that a lot of times people don't respond in a helpful way when you have an animal that's sick or that passes away. And for a number of years, I would go to emergency rooms, animal emergency rooms, and help the veterinarians deal with the people who were terrified that they were going to lose their animal, who were anxious. And I'm sure we all know that when we get anxious, we can be kind of obnoxious. And so rather than the doctor pulling away and becoming critical, my job, I saw, is to help them understand why this is so important, and to try to communicate to the owner that this pet is important to them, is important to the vet who's trying to help the animal. And they can do so by calling the animal by name, by asking some questions. How long have you had Rover? By petting Rover. Just trying to communicate your empathy for the situation that this person now finds themselves in.
So that would be something important maybe for hypnotherapists to do too, or all therapists, is to teach veterinarian doctors about to have that peace and deal with their clients' anxiety. You know, when I was reading your bio, you're also on faculty at UCLA School of Medicine. Now that's medicine, not veterinary medicine, right?
Right.
Are you teaching this to physicians too?
Yes.
Tell me what you're teaching them.
Teaching them how to have empathy, how to get the information they need from a patient so they can make an accurate diagnosis, while at the same time communicating empathy, understanding that anybody that's waiting for tests and seems to have a serious medical condition is going to be anxious and scared.
And demanding and a little obnoxious.
Sometimes, exactly. And so how the therapist, how the intern or later doctor responds is very important.
Take us to the place where the client comes in and now the animal companion has passed. And the client comes in and says, I told my best friend. And she's looked at me and said, funny you should mention, my neighbor just had an oopsie daisy and now she's giving away free puppies. Why don't you come by and get another dog?
Get rid of the friend right there.
No.
No, but that's typical of what a non-animal person would respond. I don't think they mean to be insensitive, but clearly there's nothing helpful about those type of comments, such as you can get another one, or, okay, don't overreact, it's only a dog. Of course, if your Uncle Irving from Minnesota dies and you only saw him twice a year, you're going to get flowers and sympathy cards. But your dog, who's with you every day and is essentially your primary relationship, people say, you can get another. Well, I'm sure you have another uncle somewhere, too.
It's a really, really, really good point. You know, you've really helped us to help our clients. And I know that there are people in the studio audience watching at home who would like to learn more about how to help our clients with the loss of a pet. Maybe there's veterinarians, maybe there's physicians who want to learn more about that empathetic response to that overwrought client or patient. And maybe there's even people watching who have lost an animal companion and like to come in and talk to you. Can you tell us, Dr. Glaser, how people can get hold of you?
Yes, probably the best way to get hold of me is through email. My email is eglaser, Glaser 555 @AOL.com.
I want to thank my very special guest, Dr. Ellen Glaser, for coming in and being my guest today. Well, it appears we're out of time for today. I want to thank my very special guest, Dr. Ellen Glaser. I want to thank everybody in the studio audience and everyone at home for watching. I hope you can join us next time when we meet more people and continue to explore the amazing mind. But please stay tuned. We have a lot more coming up for you on HMI Web TV. That's Hypnotherapy Television 24/7. The loss of an animal companion. Please help me welcome my guest.
Thank you, Lisa.
Dr. Glaser, why do we need to know how to help our clients recover from the loss of a pet?
Good question, and an important question.
We have as our second guest, Dr. Ellen Glaser. Now, Dr. Glaser is on the faculty at UCLA School of Medicine. She also has a private practice right here in Los Angeles, California. Today, Dr. Glaser is going to be talking to us about how we can help our clients to cope with
Divorced people, many more single people, older people that are alone except for their beloved pet.
You know, can you talk to us more about the human-animal bond?
Mm-hmm. Part of the reason that we need to help helpers be more sensitive and more available to help pet owners has a lot to do with the fact that pets have taken a much larger role in our society today.
What do you mean?
There are many.
Welcome back to Amazing Mind. If you've just joined us,